Hey everyone, welcome back to When Creatives Thrive, a Create Baltimore podcast. I'm Stuart Rustin, and before we get going, please remember to like, comment, and follow when and where you can. It helps us to keep telling creative stories. On this episode, we feature Ayana Gordon, a self-taught Antiguan-Haitian photographer and multimedia artist based in Baltimore. Working primarily with analog film and darkroom printing, she creates textured, immersive images that explore identity, heritage, and the spiritual connection between people and their environments. Ayana's practice celebrates Black identity, feminine strength, and the intimacy of place, memory, and legacy. Her images honor the relationships that shape us between family and homeland, ritual and daily life, and between who we are and who we come from. By blending personal narrative with broader cultural histories, she creates space for reflection, connection, and a fuller telling of Caribbean and Haitian experience. Ayana, welcome to When Creatives Thrive. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here this morning.
So first, I wanted to start with a quote that I found on your Instagram and would love to have you react to it because I thought it was such a powerful thing when I read it. Here goes. So here I am, a Black woman, fine art photographer and multimedia artist, doing what I love and solidifying my place to create, love, share, experience, and connect. In a time when they are actively trying to snuff us out, it feels more vital than ever to stand firm and take up space. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. I'm wondering, what are the real intentional ways that you take up space?
Taking up space for me is really just existing. I feel like existing as a Black woman is also kind of an act of resilience, especially in the political climate that we're in and with all the DEI stuff going out the window and people feeling like they can say whatever and do whatever because it's like the wild, wild west out here at the moment. I think, like I said, existing for me is my act of resilience and being able to capture the stories that are dedicated to Black men, Black women, or just telling their stories or even the stories of, my ancestors. I feel that's what it means for me to exist. Yeah.
And have you found recently that that's like just impacted on a day-to-day basis, your mood, your energy, like how you feel like you can show up?
Yeah, I think that's just to be human, isn't it, though?
Yeah.
I mean, I think every day I'm not the happiest person. I don't think I'm the funniest person every day. But I think, again, just the act of being alive and allowing those experiences to come in is allowing me to take up space no matter what it is that I show up as.
So let's talk about your work. What are you thinking about, thematically when you go about image making?
Yeah, I think when it comes to image making, the process can differ each time. I think most of the time I am seeking inspiration or inspiration comes to me and that can come as like a vision. And I feel like that kind of starts the exciting process of like, okay, I have this vision of my head of the final product and I like to call it divine intervention. And then from there, I'm just trying to think, how can I get to this final image? So I have to work backwards, whether that's with styling or when I find a set that I like, or that's the collaborators that I'm working with. I think from there, it helps me build my mood board. And my mood board really is just like, it's a crazy amount of pictures that gets me to the closest way that I can explain to other people the vision that I'm seeing. Because I think in the beginning of my process, when I was trying to get a lot of other collaborators in, if I was just explaining it to them, they'd be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And to me, it makes perfect sense. I'm
totally,
like,
yeah.
What do you mean you don't get it? So making these mood boards is really the best way to enroll other people to see like, okay, I've thought about every single aspect of this shoot, of this storyline, and I would love you to come in, put your spin on it, and join the chaos, really. It really is. But usually I feel like people are more than happy to kind of join in and be a part of something. And I also think that's what's so great about my images as well, is that it's not only just about me. It's about bringing other people in on the process as well, which I love every time. I mean, I think there's some shoots where it's just like me, a model, and maybe an assistant, but I love, love, love the shoots where I can like utilize a makeup artist, I can utilize a stylist, I can utilize a PA, a lighting team, because it's like the energy in the room is just like, it's magnetic, really. It's like, you guys, you have to see what we got going on here.
You know, I think filmmaking and photo making and image making in general is a unique process because there are so many people involved. And yes, like there is somebody who has the vision, but then you get, you know, however many people in the room with you. What do you think about this idea of like happy accidents, like things happening on set that weren't necessarily intended, but that happen organically when you have so many minds going? Like, is it a possibility for you, or is it like, I have this thing in my brain, and until that's what I see in the viewfinder, like we must trek on?
I think that's actually a fantastic question. I have learned the power of release. I think that so much of the time, especially with having those mood boards, I'll be like, okay, I want this shot, I want this shot, I want this shot. And then with that, you feel sometimes people can be a little rigid because they're trying to give you exactly what you're looking for. And that moment you kind of release, or the model moves in a different way organically, and you're like, wait, that's even better than what I had imagined. I think specifically actually of the shoot that I was doing with my grandfather that you may have seen in the studio, where he's in front of the plants and he's kind of reaching out to his plants. And I mentioned that he calls them his girlfriend. So the way he's reaching out to them is with love. That had nothing to do with the original shoot that I wanted to do with him. But he was like, no, Ayana, like get me in front of these plants. And the way it came out was even better than what I could have imagined. And you have to allow for those moments. And I think with release, there's flow, you know what I mean? Because you're so tightly wound when you're just focused on this one shot that like when you see it, when it comes to you, and that also kind of comes with that divine intervention, you just have to allow it and just release to the process. And yeah, I'm more than happy to kind of flow through my shoots than I am to tell everybody exactly what I need. I think that's a good starting point, but you have to allow for it.
Yeah, it's kind of impossible otherwise. And I think you end up bringing this kind of like tyrannical energy to a set when it's like, you must do that, you must use this, you must, you know, this approach. To me, it's like less fun as well, because there's less kind of magic. It's like this psychic kind of thing that ends up happening where it's like, you know what's up and you know what's up, and you're like, oh yeah, we're all kind of moving in a direction together. But let's walk it back a little bit, because one of the unique things that you're doing right now is using film. You're an analog photographer exclusively.
Yes.
Right? So like, how do you convince somebody? Why is it analog for you over digital?
For me personally, I just really like the tactility of analog photography. I think kind of going back to the very beginning for me, I started in digital. A family friend kind of introduced me to photography when we had to take pictures at a family event, and I thought it was so cool. So the idea of photography has always been like a seed that's been planted in my mind. But when I got to high school, I got a chance to do photography. I guess my origin story is that I went to Severance School in Severna Park, and we had someone's mom come in who worked for the National Geographic, and she brought in all of these different film cameras because she used to travel to different countries with, you know, kids from different communities. She would give them these cameras and give them for a week and kind of wait for them to come back to see like what stories they would tell.
Oh, that's fun.
It was so much fun. So she gave us a sample of that I think it was for like a class period. She gave us these film cameras and just released us onto the campus. And our campus is pretty huge. I'm not gonna lie there. And I just like fell in love with the process of it. I mean, even just like the winding of the film, hearing the clicks, like really slowing down in order to capture this one moment. And I think me and my friend at the time, we were so proud of the images that we took, that I felt like I was sold from there. When someone tries to come up to me with the digital is better, it's really not my job to convince you that analog is better, to be honest. I think the process, what I like is what I like, what you like is what you like, and I can respect that. But for me, again, I love the process of it. And even just being in the dark room as well is just, I often relate it to being kind of like this ritual for me. I feel like I need to be in the right headspace. I need to make sure that I'm fed. And the fact that I'm working in the dark, I have to trust myself and trust my intuition. So it's very therapeutic to me. I think with digital, personally, being able to click away and having 1,000 options at the end of it, that's overwhelming for me.
It is kind of overwhelming, yeah.
And I feel like for me in my everyday life, I'm also just this type of person that I'm always doing something. I'm always all over the place. So for film photography, for me, forces me to actually have to slow down. Even working with film has taught me more about like meditation and like maybe meditation versus prayer. And maybe things don't come to you as frequently or when you want it right now, but things are out there working in your favor. So I think for me, photography has definitely taught me more about patience and understanding myself more as well. So I definitely take that into my everyday life.
You mentioned working in the dark room. Are they going extinct, or like, do you see a life for dark rooms?
I truly, truly hope so. I know for me, I work with Full Circle, and they're basically like the only dark room in the DMV. I think there's one in DC, but I think it's like membership invite based or some BS like that. So Full Circle, and I'm so happy it's in my backyard. I think that's really what brought me to Baltimore. The fact that everything that I need is literally 5 minutes in every direction is fantastic. But they're definitely going extinct, and it makes me so sad. I think a lot of people are always asking me like about my process in there, and I'm like, the darkroom is so important to my process. Again, talking kind of about how it's a ritual for me. I feel like that at that point of image making, that's where it's really me versus the image. I feel like it's ritualistic because I also have to work the image out. You know what I mean? I feel like I have to see like, yes, I've captured the image. Yes, I've worked with this team, but it's really me working with this paper, these chemicals, this enlarger to try to get this image exactly how I want people to perceive it.
I gotta ask, like, what's on the darkroom playlist? Can you play music? Like,
oh yeah. I always tell. Honestly, they see me every time. I'm having my own like dance battle with myself in the dark room, in the dark. No, it's as crazy as it sounds, but you got to do what you got to do to get in that headspace. The playlist changes every time, so I'm really like a house girl through and through.
Okay.
I like house. I like my Afro beats. I like it all.
Okay, so you've been through the process of being on set. You've taken the pictures. You've worked through them in the dark room. Maybe you can tell me about a recent series or a couple of your favorite images and sort of how visually they've represented some of the messages that you're trying to convey in your work.
Yeah, so a lot of my work or the themes that I focus on in my work is around like heritage, memory, connection, and self-discovery. So for me, some of my favorite images that I did take were when I went back to Antigua, which is where my grandfather's from. And I got a chance to kind of connect with the people there and take some images. What I took from that experience is that I wanted to dig deeper. I think the images that I took during that time were so beautiful, but I don't think they told enough about the story of my grandfather. And kind of tapping back into that image of him in front of the flag, touching his plants, I think that was kind of an image that I wanted to dig into more.
Okay.
Just saying more that it's like documentary style rather than this fashion editorial lens that I've been shooting with so far. And I felt like getting more into this documentary style is going to tell people more about my history and my ancestry, and the idea that I had that I wanted to honor my ancestors with each image that I took. From there, I felt like that just bloomed this idea of wanting to learn myself more. Not only just where I'm from, but like who am I really? And I also felt like I needed to honor my Haitian side as well, because it was such a powerful story. And that's kind of how Negmawon got birthed, is because it was my first chance to really dig into that Haitian side. I had visited Haiti in 2017, and my mom made it a point to make sure that I went with her, and it was an amazing trip. And one of the most important statues that we saw in Haiti was Negmawon, which is basically this statue of resilience that they made in representation of the Haitian people freeing themselves. And that's one of the most important things to know about the Haitian people, is that they were the first slaves to ever free themselves. So I thought to myself, how am I going to bring this idea of freedom and resilience back? And the best way that I thought I could do it was to make Negmawon my own. What does it look like for me? And I was so happy with that shoot. And also, again, just with the team, it was really magical on that shoot day. From working with florists to working with a set designer, to hand dyeing the backgrounds. Like, it just felt like such a hands-on process, and that kind of set the stage for me, like, okay, this is exactly how I want to tell my stories. This is exactly the power that I want to give to each shoot that I have. Right now, some of the shoots that I'm working on are more personal, talking about the journey from girlhood to womanhood and what that looks like for me. So I've broken it down into different chapters that I felt like I've gone through or that I've seen. So there's femininity, there's sisterhood, there's unraveling, which is kind of tapping into what it looks like when I'm falling apart and what it looks like to kind of put myself back together again, especially being on my own. And that's a really important series that I'm working on right now. And I feel like in different ways, it's also healing because I'm just allowing myself to be vulnerable, which can be uncomfortable for anybody. And it kind of feels like I'm putting a mirror up to myself and allowing people to see that reflection of me.
When you say you're alone in a place, and you mentioned that in your bio, you're interested in spiritual connections to places, do you find that having a spiritual connection to some place like Baltimore actually sort of helps you or facilitates you, moving through life?
Absolutely. And I think being able to connect with the city also allows inspiration to find me as well. So whether that's connecting with the people or connecting with my space, I think when talking about my space, it's so important for me to kind of make that space my home, whether that is for the studio or whether that is for my living quarters. I really try to make things as cozy as possible, and I work really well with small spaces, and I think my family will will agree to that as well, is that I can be extroverted, but I'm very introverted. So having a cozy, comfortable space to me is important because that's where I am most of the time. I think spirituality ties into that as well, because I feel for me, I can't practice if I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I mean that physically. I think you can allow yourself consciously to be uncomfortable and still meditate and still pray and everything like that. But for me, I think that is important. And I find being in this space, it allows, again, for that divine intervention, because for me, everything feels at peace.
Yeah.
Everything feels in its right place.
I was actually super impressed because we met each other during Open Studio Tour weekend, and I was able to see your cozy little space at the Creative Alliance. What a well-decorated apartment that you have. I mean, just sort of spot on. It was almost kind of like set dressed in a way. Like, I felt like I was stepping into a shoot. It's got these cameras on the wall and your work. And even some of the work that accompanies the image making, there was something hanging from the ceiling that almost looked like a kind of nest. It was just but just all in its right place. Do you feel like that's an accurate characterization of either you or your space?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, everything that I got was definitely thought out. I'm a queen of thrifting, so it also makes me have to be a lot more intentional about what I'm getting. But yeah, I love my space, and I feel like it definitely represents me. I feel like my apartment is very rich, which I feel like my work is as well. I feel like you can kind of see the passion in the work that I do and in my interior design, which I also love to say that interior design or multimedia work also kind of feeds into the photography and vice versa. So I definitely think it all represents me. And interior design is something that I do with my dad as well. It's like one of our connection points.
Really?
Yeah, we love to design spaces. It's like one of our favorite things to do together, or just like go thrifting together and we're sending each other these texts like, you wouldn't believe what I just spent. Oh yeah, or who can get the better price on something.
Way.
Absolutely. No, it's one of our favorite things to do. So I feel like my space and all represents me and represents my family. I think I want to show people a little bit more about photography, or like what film photography can look like, and which is why I have my budding collection out. Or I love when people ask me like, yo, what is this camera that has 4 lenses on it? Like, what are you trying to do with that? And I'm like, well, funny you should ask. Let me tell you.
Brushes off her shoulder.
Yeah, come on. No, but it's fun, and I feel like they're great conversation points, and I'm more than happy to have the conversation about it because it brings people into my world. You know what I mean? Of like, oh, not that film is better than, digital, or digital is better than film, but just like, oh, I can understand, like, there's so many different options here. Just get your mind thinking about what can be different from what you may know, you know what I'm saying? Or what is going on in the world right now. I feel like my space is just in general is a good conversation starter.
Yeah, I also think that you were very hospitable. You actually let us try out these cameras, which was like so cool. Like to get my hands on a medium format camera. Like I've seen them online. I've gone down like eBay rabbit holes, but I've never actually like felt one or touched one. So that was like a super cool experience just to sort of cross that threshold. But what is that? Why would you choose a different format? Does it give you something that the traditional 35 millimeter doesn't?
Yeah, so medium format really works with like a larger sensor, which gives you a better resolution on the images, especially when you're printing. Medium format was used a lot, I believe, in the 50s and 60s. The ones that I use right now is a Japanese film camera called the Mamiya RB67. They've since made newer versions like the RZ, but it's made with more plastic material as opposed to the RB, which is made with more metal material. And I think you can also attest to it as well that it's a pretty heavy piece of machinery that you're working with. I have to get my arm workouts in, making sure that I'm ready for each shoot. I'm not gonna lie, I'll be in the gym. But yeah, so I love working with medium format. I think when I'm printing, I can really tell the difference. I think what draws people to 35 millimeter, especially kind of in my generation, is that like grainy kind of nostalgic feel. And I think with medium format, you kind of get this crisper image that's not as crispy as digital, but it's exactly what your eye would see. And I think that's also why it's important for me to kind of give people the chance to see medium format and to hold it, is because you could, even if you're looking through the lens, you can see like, whoa, the detail that I'm looking at is insane. Yeah. So that's why it was important for me to kind of bring people in on that side of film photography, or that side of medium format. Is like, okay, you hear what I'm talking about, but try it out for yourself.
Yeah, it's definitely a different kind of, you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Your work also has this, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of this, because it's film, I think, because it's this medium format thing, like you're saying, to me, there's sort of this dreamy element to it, because it does kind of tap into, I think, what we all maybe collectively recognize as like a vintage kind of aesthetic. Mm-hmm. When I look at your stuff, there is such an eye for, color and fashion, but then you're sort of making these statements within, what just feels like a world that's a lot like ours, but maybe just a few degrees different. Like, is that all part of the thinking, or am I imagining things?
No, definitely. And I always say that's kind of one of the themes of my film photography, as well, as being able to kind of tap into that collective memory. So for me, I think, does film photography help? Yes, I do. But I think the story that I'm trying to tell also is in conjunction with trying to tap into that theme of memory as well. I'm imagining is my whispers of yesterday. So it's a big one in the studio that kind of has the girl laying across the couch and she's looking directly into the camera. For me, that one also taps into memory of being kind of in like your grandparents' house, but it also taps into femininity as well. So when I'm thinking about femininity, I'm thinking, okay, what does femininity look like for me in terms of hair? What does that look like for me in terms of costume? And for me, that's why I wanted to tap into like the white dresses. And I really like the idea of this baby doll dress because it makes her just look gentle. And even down to her socks that I had, they were kind of these lace high top socks with these loafers. And for me, again, these are all like intricate details that speak to me and show what femininity means to me or how that shows up for me when I'm thinking about kind of memory and maybe how like we were dressed when we were growing up or what my parents were putting me in growing up as well. The house itself, I felt like the color of the red against the white was really powerful as well. It kind of made the white pop out even more. I really liked the fact that the house kind of had these African pieces in them because I also think that was symbolic of like my house. We had these African masks that would cause me to ask questions to my parents of like, what does this mean? Where is that coming from? Like, why is that important to us?
Yeah.
So again, it causes people to ask questions about the work. I feel pretty intentional about most things. I have no problem people asking me questions, which is actually funny, kind of going on a little bit of something separate is that when you were in my studio, you also saw that I had the mood boards out.
Yeah.
That's not something that I typically do. I was actually very against it.
Why?
Because I feel like sometimes people don't need to know all the magic of what's happening. You know what I mean? I feel like I am okay with the idea of people not knowing how it was done. I have no problem answering the question if people ask me, but I feel like sometimes that's the movie magic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You need to know every single thought that I had behind this work as an audience member.
Maybe, or maybe not, but I appreciated it.
Yeah.
I appreciated being able to, pull the curtain back a little bit because it's also important when you think about or talk about process and maybe like a more efficient approach, a more effective approach. Because like if there are younger people or older people, I guess age doesn't matter, but like just in terms of your experience coming into your space and saying like, I want to do what you're doing. Like you don't have to give me the special sauce, but help me get to that point. Like, I think it's a really, again, in the same way you let me try out the cameras, there's this sort of hospitality to like, I'll give you a little bit, and if you can take it and do something with it, like
do it.
Yeah. So I thought that was really, really nice of you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Yeah, my family, they're always telling me like, no, you need to put these like mood boards out there so people can see the process, people can see how long it takes you to at least like make the mood boards and things like that. And I think for the open studio, especially my first one, it was kind of like going through the process. You see the cameras, you see the mood boards, and you see the final image, and you even see like the original prints that were then enlarged to these bigger ones. So I think for the purpose of the open studio, we did it. I think it turned out great.
Yeah, it did. So I just wanted to wrap up with a question. How do you continue to lay your roots here in Baltimore, but still give yourself the space to grow?
I lay my roots in Baltimore by being open to the people that I'm connecting to and being in different communities. I think there's a story in every community, and I think that also allows for inspiration because you're allowing for different thoughts. So, for example, I feel like I'm in the creative community, obviously, but I'm also in like a budding dance community. So I've been really into like salsa, bachata. I recently visited this like tango club that had these like, it was a tango club that had the average age was probably 80. again, you have to be open-minded.
Yeah.
And because I felt like I heard from this gentleman, I believe his name was Roger, and he was telling me like his story. And I felt like that caused me to ask questions, which caused my mind to jog in different ways that maybe it wouldn't have before I, was having this conversation with him. So I feel like being connected in Baltimore is just being open and being open to the diversity that we offer here. How do I stay grounded and rooted is knowing who I am, knowing my purpose or what I want to be able to capture, and being in my space. I think that's a really good kind of like grounding reset for me is like, okay, I've taken all this information in like a satellite. Now let me just sit with it. And what does the result of sitting with it look like? Is that inspiration for a new shoot? Is that me tapping into this new community member that I didn't know before? Is it causing me to do more research on something or dig a little deeper? So yeah, I feel Baltimore is such a great kind of jumping off point in so many different directions for me when it comes to my work. And I also feel like the city also nurtures me a lot as well, because I genuinely feel like I can find anything that I'm interested in. If you can't find something you're interested in Baltimore, it's not the city. It's not the city. So, but yeah, I love Baltimore. I love the space that I'm in right now. And I'm really excited for the work that I'll be able to create, especially being in Creative Alliance. I'm excited kind of to experiment a little bit more and expand my practice. So not only with film photography, but with different mediums as well, or being able to expand more on experimentation, really, and like what that looks like for me. Like I kind of feel like how I was at the beginning of my practice of like being okay not knowing anything and wanting to ask questions of like, okay, like how does this work, or how can I make this work, or who do I need to talk to, or just, again, I think going back to being open, like you're never as open as you are when you don't know something. You know what I mean? And you're hungry for that knowledge, or you're hungry to try something out, or I think I'm just really excited for what these next 2 to 3 years look like for me and what I'm able to create and to tell.
Awesome. Well, it's been so cool having you in the studio. I'm really glad I got to nerd out with you.
Me too.
And can't wait to have you back sometime soon.
Yes. Thank you again for having me.
Thanks so much to Ayana for joining the podcast, and thanks to you for listening. Remember, if you are a creative person with a story to share, reach out to me at srustin@promotioninarts.org to be featured on the podcast. And as always, when creatives thrive, we all rise.